Let's look at acids and bases, and particularly how to name them and write formulas. For now, acids are substances that give off hydrogen ions, and bases are substances that give off hydroxide ions. Acids neutralize bases because the hydrogen ion and the hydroxide ion react to form water. This is the neutralization reaction. Acid plus base gives you a salt and water. For example, hydrochloric acid reacts with sodium hydroxide to form aqueous sodium chloride and water. Acids turn indicator papers red. Binary acids have hydrogen and one other atom. Remember, binary means two elements in the compound. Their name is hydro something ic acid, and the something is the root of the other atom. So for example, HCl is a binary, and it's hydrochloric acid, hydrochloric acid. You try one, HBr. Hopefully you got hydrobromic acid. Try this one, H2S. Now if it's a gas, it's hydrogen sulfide, or dihydrogen sulfide as some would say, but as an acid, it's hydrosulfuric acid. Now notice, this is not sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4. This is hydrosulfuric acid. Now, you should get out your chart of polyatomic ions, something you actually ought to have memorized. Let's name oxyacids. These are acids that not only have hydrogen, but also oxygen in them. They have hydrogen, oxygen, and usually just one more element. So H2SO4 is made of hydrogen ions, and the polyatomic ion here is sulfate. So oxyacid is going to be made from hydrogen ions and one of the polyatomic anions, sulfate, acetate, nitrate, nitrite, phosphate, and so forth. Naming them is actually pretty easy. We give you the root of the non-oxy atom plus either ic or us, and then say acid. So H2SO4 is sulfur, ic acid, sulfuric acid. And H2SO3 is sulfur acid, sulfurous acid. Now, how do we determine whether it's an ic acid or an us acid? Well, do you see the difference? Of course, the ic acid has one more oxygen than the us acid, and the ic acid is always a stronger acid. The ic acid is made from the ate ion. In this case, sulfate makes sulfuric acid. The us acid is made from the ite salt. So the sulfite salt gives you sulfurous acid. H2SO4 is made from sodium sulfate. H2SO3 is made from sodium sulfite. So let's practice. Name HNO3 and HNO2. Nitric and nitrous acids. Name H3PO4 and H3PO3. Phosphoric and phosphorus acid. Now notice this is with an OUS. Let's talk the per acids. An acid with one more oxygen than the ic acid is called a per-ic acid. So chloric acid is HClO3. That's the hydrogen ion and the chlorate ion. Perchloric acid would be HClO4. Again, it has one more oxygen atom than the chloric acid. So what's the formula for per-iodic acid? Work that out, write it down, and check your answer. It is HiO4. Now, it helps to memorize the big five. That'll speed up your test taking and reading. Hydrochloric, sulfuric, nitric, phosphoric, and acetic, which can be written HCH3COO, or more frequently CH3COOH. We try not to write CO2H instead of COOH. And where is this at your house? If you think about it, you realize it's in vinegar. From this list, we can derive most of the other acids. If we have the ic, we can get the us. Hydrobromic, hydrofluoric, hydroiodic, we've already talked about. The hydro acids, the binaries. So if you know these, you can usually derive the rest. Now let's talk bases. These are even easier than acids. First, you should memorize ammonium hydroxide, NH4OH. It's the ammonium ion plus hydroxide. All the others are hydroxides of metals. So NaOH, KOH, CaOH taken twice, or MgOH taken twice, or SrOH taken twice. AlOH taken 3 times. Remember, aluminum attains a +3 ion when it becomes low energy stable. You can find these in your house if you look. Usually your medicine cabinet's the best place to look, except for things like sodium hydroxide. That's lye. It's sometimes used as a drain cleaner. Now bases turn indicator paper blue. Now, we need to understand that there are some OH compounds that are not bases. They're called hydroxyl compounds. If they are a carbon compound with an OH in them, that OH attached to a carbon atom is a hydroxyl group. It is not the hydroxide ion. This is not an ionic type of thing. This bond between the oxygen and the carbon is covalent, a sharing of 2 electrons. So again, if you've got C with an OH, you're actually looking usually at an alcohol. Methanol, phenol, C6H5OH, those are alcohols. And quite frankly, they are very, very weak acids. Now let's look at the carboxylic acids, like acetic acid. They are acids with carbon and oxygen. Acetic, again, is CH3COOH. The acid has 2 parts. The alkane part, in this case the methyl group, and the carboxylic acid functional group, which is C with a double bond to an O, and then an OH. Here's the structure. The methyl and C with a double bond to O, and then the OH. And this hydrogen is the one that comes off as an acid. Acetic acid has another name, the IUPAC name. Since it's derived from ethane, the 2-carbon alkane, that's ethane. Its IUPAC name is ethanoic acid. The 2nd carbon, of course, becomes the carbonyl carbon. All carboxylic acids are very weak acids, so they don't break up 100% in water like HCl, HNO3, and H2SO4 do. Here are some other alkane chains and their corresponding acids: propane and propanoic acid, butane and butanoic acid, sometimes called butyric, pentane and pentanoic acid. And some information about those. Review. Name the following. And write formulas for these acids.